Our problems with the IRS started in the middle of the dot-com boom when our commercial lease came up for renewal. I went to our landlord about 6 months before the lease was up, and I said, I see which way the wind is blowing. All these dot-com businesses that are being funded by investor capital are paying exorbitant rents. Even though I've been in the building for 10 years, you can get more rent from these folks than you can from me. If you want me to move, let me know now, because it's going to take me 6 months to move. And he said, no, we want you to stay. When the lease comes up for renewal, we'll do a cost of living increase and continue. So the day I went to sign the new lease, he sat me down with his real estate agent and said, I'm going to do you a favor. Instead of tripling your rent, I'm only going to double it.
Well, the difficulty that I got was with the end of the Blood Centers of the Pacific thing. I was going through a divorce at the time, and most of my retirement packet had to be separated 50% like the state of California requires. So there was a significant tax bill on that. The UCSF wasn't withholding enough taxes on an annual basis. So with those two combined bills, I ended up owing about $5,000.
The IRS, when they come after you hot and heavy, but it takes them a long time to find you and come after you.
In 2010, I made $193,000. In 2011, I made $12,000.
Okay, so in a situation where you have a business owner who had been doing well when the economy was doing well and found themselves in a situation where their business has been scaled back or went out of business as a result of a downturn in the economy, they are many times faced with an old tax bill because, while they were being prosperous, they may not have realized all of the tax consequences that come with a prosperous business, because you have two types of taxes that are due. You have income taxes and you have Social Security taxes.
We were in the middle of the whole loan shenanigans that the banks were pulling at that time. We were able to get a loan because they were handing them out like candy, but we knew we couldn't pay for it, and we told the loan broker that we were working with that we weren't going to be able to pay for it. But they said, oh, don't worry, in 2 or 3 years you'll be able to refinance, you'll be able to lower the payments, you'll be able to make it, don't worry. Well, the broker was getting a commission. The bank that was giving the loan was selling it off immediately to somebody else, so they're passing on the risk. Somebody else that bought it was securitizing it, selling the risk to Wall Street. Eventually, the whole pile of cards came falling down.
The economic disparities between the people that can play the system or can afford to hire lobbyists to design the system themselves, and you and me, which just, we're barely keeping afloat.
You have $60,000 in debt, credit card debt. You are below a certain level of income. You file, and your debts are all discharged within 3 months of filing, and there's no repayment plan of any kind. And that applies to people with middle income and lower, and people with not too many assets. You're allowed to have some assets in the Chapter 7, but not. You're allowed to have approximately $28,000 in cars, cash, checking accounts, and that type of stuff. So
Offer and compromise is actually a great option since the IRS updated their code in March of last year, because they're much more favorable to the taxpayers now. And what it is you list all your assets. It's a complicated form and a formula, and you list out everything for the IRS, and you say basically, I owe you this much money. I owe you $50,000. But based on the lack of assets that I have and the fact that I make very little money, this is what I could reasonably be expected to pay, and you make an offer for that amount. It takes about a year for the IRS to process that, and it can toll the 3-year period. So that while they're waiting and processing that offer and compromise, it stops the time from running both the statute of limitations as well as the time that they might be eligible for bankruptcy. But once you end up getting any kind of debt relief or for debt forgiven, it becomes income. So people sell their house, and a foreclosure is treated the same way as a short sale, is treated the same way as if you just walk away from it. The bank will take a certain amount of money, and if they say, okay, fine, we'll accept $200,000 instead of the $300,000 you owe us, you're going to get a 1099 from them that you're going to get taxed. The IRS is going to tax you on that money. All of a sudden, something that was a debt becomes income.
I have had quite an education. I would do many things different. I certainly would not have taken the mortgage that we could not pay on our house. The IRS had placed a lien on our house, and that would have had to have been paid when we sold the house, but we would have been able to keep the house.
You cannot have a democracy unless you have the yeoman American, the salt of the earth, out there voting, taking care of business, making sure that we are a democracy and not an oligarchy. And if you destroy the middle class through overtaxation, unfair tax practices, it's a domino effect. It all just goes, and the next thing you know, we have Marie Antoinette saying, let them eat cake.